So good afternoon everyone and welcome on to today's Q&A session. My name is Tony Restell and I'm the founder of socialhire.com. Delighted to welcome you onto this Q&A session. We run these every few weeks to try and help you with the social media, the digital marketing challenges that you as a business are facing. And delighted to be able to welcome today a guest we have with us, Cameron McLennan from Firefish Software. I'm going to introduce Cameron properly in just a moment. But just to explain the format, we're going to run through. Cameron has a few ideas to share with you on some things that at Firefish they see crucial for you to focus on with your digital marketing. I'm then going to share a couple of ideas from the social hire side, and that's probably going to take 15 minutes in total. And then we're going to open things up to fielding your live questions. So don't be shy. Use the question box to put through to us whatever challenges, whatever issues you're facing in the business, and we'll happily try and field those in the latter part of the session. And if there's anything afterwards that you want to address to us, you're very welcome to follow up by email as well, and we can always jump onto a call one-on-one if that would be helpful. So without further ado, let me just unmute Cameron there. Cameron, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you, Tony.
Fantastic. Welcome on to today's call. Thank you ever so much for taking time out of your day to join us today. Let me just move things on. We've asked Cameron to join us today because many of you in the industry will know Firefish recruitment software, sometimes thought of as a CRM system, but actually much more accurately described as a sales and marketing platform for recruiters and recruitment businesses. So Cameron's got loads of experience. We interact lots on social media about what it takes to get noticed, what it takes to generate engagement and interest. So wanted to invite Cameron onto the call today to kick things off and just share with you some ideas from their side. So Cameron, over to you for the next few minutes.
Great, Tony. Thanks very much, and thanks very much for having me on the webinar today. Just wanted to sort of kick things off by sort of saying I think that one of the most important things with digital and social media marketing for recruiters is that you have to be sure to identify what you're looking to get from social media before you actually breeze into it. It's important that you identify what's important to you and what outcomes you're hoping that social media is going to bring you as an individual, and also your agency and brand as well. Tony, could you skip on to the next slide for me just now, and I'll have a wee chat about that. Great, thanks. So yeah, it's just all about identifying what you want to get from it. Social media is a great platform to allow you to build credibility as a go-to recruiter in your market and in your niche as well. It's going to allow you to start to attract good quality talent that will return to you and your brand time and time again. If you get social media right, and you're doing it well, and you're adding value to candidates and clients alike across your social media platforms, then those candidates and clients will come back to your social profiles, and as a result of that, they will go back to your website time and time again. The beauty of that is that even if you have a job on at the moment that's not necessarily a fit for those people, if they come back to your profiles time and time again, then the chances are that when you do have something that's of interest to them, they will engage. Another thing as well that a lot of agencies don't consider when it comes to social media is that it could give you an opportunity to actually show off the amazing culture that you have within your own agency. And what that can do is, further down the line, is it can allow you to attract good quality talent that actually wants to work for your agency as well. So showing off your culture, it can allow you to start to do that on social media. Tony, if you skip over onto the next one for me as well, that'd be great. The other thing as well when it comes to social media is that you want to fish where the fish are. Now, excuse the Firefish pun in that one, but I had to get that in there. It's worthwhile investing a lot of time in figuring out where the people you want to attract hang about online, and then focusing your efforts into those areas. You don't have to necessarily be visible on every single social media platform out there, but it's worthwhile being visible in the ones where your target market hang about and have a presence in there. Most of the time, and I speak to recruiters on a daily basis, the first port of call is LinkedIn. But in actual fact, as time moves on, platforms like Instagram, Snapchat and Twitter, these platforms nowadays actually have more active users than LinkedIn does on a monthly basis. So that's a pretty big pond that you don't want to necessarily discount. So you could be missing out on candidates if you're not fishing where your candidates hang about. Just on that as well, recent research is starting to show now that millennials, which I'm one of myself, are moving away from platforms like Facebook and into other networks like Instagram and Snapchat. So if your target audience is millennials, for example, you might want to focus resources on building a stronger presence in those networks and starting to discount the networks where your target audience don't hang about. Tony, can you go on to the next one for me as well? Great. The other thing to remember is that your social media presence is an extension of your brand. Candidates and people in general who are making a decision to engage with someone these days, they're far further through the process of actually wanting to speak to another human before they actually engage in that conversation. So savvy candidates out there, they're going to evaluate you and your brand before applying or speaking with you or even accepting a job, much in the same way that they'll evaluate consumer brands when shopping. So they will be researching you as much as you're researching them. So it's really advisable to make sure that your social profiles are a strong tool for engaging that talent.
Thanks ever so much, Cameron, and hopefully that's given you all some food for thought. If you've got questions in particular that come to mind from what Cameron's just been saying, please do fire those through on the question box, and we'll turn our attention to those in just a few minutes' time. Really interesting, I think, to hear Cameron talk about the importance of being valuable to your audience. Whenever I see recruitment businesses that are getting nowhere on social media, it's very often the case that they prioritize promoting jobs, pushing promotions down the throats of people on social media, rather than actually trying to be valuable to people in the industry that they serve. And that's absolutely key to generating, as Cameron said, a following of people who come back to your profile time and time again. Don't try and make the sale the very first time they land up on one of your profiles, but actually focus on getting them bought in, to following you, to interacting with you, to looking out for the posts that you put out there. And I equate that to, building an email subscriber list 10 years ago. You did that by consistently sending through email newsletters that were full of value and insight for people, rather than constantly sending through, your latest sales promotion. And social media is not really that different in terms of what it takes to be successful. So a couple of additional thoughts from my side at Social Hire. Obviously, as a business, we work with recruitment businesses, recruitment technology companies, job boards, and small businesses as well, to help them get results on social media by representing their brand. And what we like to do is build a funnel with our clients, because you have to start out on social media knowing what your end goal is. So if we look at this funnel here, depending on your business, maybe you want to generate lots of new client sales meetings from your presence on social media. Maybe you're a recruitment business, you need to spark interest amongst potential employers that you could start working with. Maybe you're in a market where you've got tons of business and you're just incredibly candidate short. And so you want to drive lots of candidates to go to a website, to register their CV with you, to apply for your jobs. Or there may be a whole load of other goals. Some clients want to become recognized authorities in their particular industry. So for them, it's all about the key people in their business being invited to speak at conferences, being featured in articles and online publications, or it may be all about driving people to a website to take out a subscription. The key thing is that you really should start your presence on social media having defined what that end outcome is that you want, because then everything else that you do on social media is optimized and tweaked and refined to get you to that end point. So, we would encourage you to think about that endpoint and then work backwards. So if we want to, let's say, generate, let's say we want to generate having recruitment business owners register for a webinar to hear what it is we do, to learn from us, and hopefully to then want to pick up the phone with us and talk to us about working with them. So we would then go out and look at social sites and say, okay, where can we reach the most recruitment business owners? Which social sites are they on? Which social sites can we reach them on? Are they most active on? Where are they engaging the most? And that will give us a total audience that we're able to reach for ourselves or for any of our clients in the markets that they serve. And this is one of the key things, Cameron was talking about, make sure you choose the right social platforms. There are lots of options out there as to where you can have a social media presence, and the right one for your business will be the one that's oriented around where your actual target audience spend their time. So that's the first thing to say. You don't need to be absolutely everywhere, but you do need to have a great presence on the social sites where you can have the most impact. And from that presence, we want to focus on being valuable, and that's going to help us build up an ever bigger asset for the business, which is the fans and the followers that you build up on your accounts, who love the content you put out there, who increasingly reshare that, retweet that with their own audiences, and therefore help your business reach an ever bigger and bigger portion of the market yourselves. And then what you're looking to do is to take things one step further and engage with that audience. I always say to people, if you've got an end goal, if you want to encourage candidates to go to your careers pages, or you want to encourage potential clients to book in a call with you, you can advertise and promote that to a huge number of people on social media, and you will get some results from that. But the vast majority will just see that in their stream and not act on it. The single biggest wins in social media come from actually engaging with the people you really want to be doing business with, interacting with them, and then during the course of that conversation, putting out there the idea that they might like to book in for a call with you, or they might like to join your next webinar, or they might like to download your hiring report, or check out the latest vacancies you have on your site. Whatever it is that you're driving people to, engaging with the people that you want to take that step, and then during the conversation pointing them in that direction, that has the greatest results. Now, we do have clients, where, maybe they've only just got their website sorted out, or they're not yet in a position to do this last step, and that's fine. What you do in that case, you're building up a fan and a follower base as an asset for your business to use in the future. But what you have to realize is until you've got the bottom of this funnel in place, you're never truly going to extract the real value from social media, which is getting the end outcome that you want by interacting with people. And lots of recruitment businesses that come to us with, with quite a decent fan count, follower base, but they say, we're just not getting any candidate applications from this, we're just not getting any client interest. That's what they're missing. So if that's what you're seeing in your own business, consider whether you've got that bottom part of the funnel in place. And then linked into that, I would say, we see 4 steps for success on whichever social platforms you decide to be most active on. And the first key step is that you've got to carefully define the audience that you as a business want to reach, or indeed you as an individual, if you're thinking about your own personal social media strategy for you as a recruitment professional. That who is it you want to reach, and what is the objective of being on social media? So what do we want at the bottom of that funnel as our desired outcome? Once you've got that defined, then you're going to build profiles that are going to make you extremely valuable for that particular audience. So the key thing is to focus on what would those people want? What would they find valuable in their day-to-day lives? What would make people, when they first land on your profile, want to follow you? And then as they start getting your updates, make them find them really valuable, make them want to reshare them with their network. If you can do that, if you can become a magnet in your sector as one of the most valuable social profiles that people in that space could follow, then you've really, hit the jackpot, because everything else flows from that. If your profile isn't valuable, we could get 1,000 of the right people to look at your profile, but you might only have 10 of them choose to follow you if what you're putting out on your profile and the wording of your profile just comes across as spammy and promotional. Whereas if you've done a great job here, if we get 1,000 of the right people to look at your profile, you might have 400 of them click the button to follow and get your updates on an ongoing basis. So that second step is absolutely key. And if you're finding you're not building your fans and followers very fast on your social profiles, one of the first things to look at is think about arriving on your social profile as a candidate or a client in your industry. Would you be won over by how valuable, entertaining, insightful your profiles are? Or would you just, sigh and go, oh no, not another recruitment business that's just flogging the jobs that they've got at the moment? So that's the second key step. The third key step, once you've got those profiles that do a great job of converting and that people find valuable, is then to be proactive about getting more of the right people to see your profiles. Now, this is the old mantra, if we build it, they'll come. And that is very rarely the case, and the same is true with social media. You could have the very best profiles for people in your industry, but if you've got a small following, no one is going to find those profiles, and so no one's going to know that you're the most valuable resource in your industry. So on every social site you want to be active on, you need to figure out, okay, on that particular site, what are the best ways of getting yourself noticed in a way that is professional, not spammy, and that's going to result in more and more of the right people seeing your profiles each week and each month. If you can do that and figure that out for each social site, you've then basically built a process that means every month we know we're going to add this many hundred or this many thousand followers and fans to our profiles, because we've cracked how to get our profiles seen by the right people and have them want to follow us and get our updates on an ongoing basis. And then the last step is making time to engage with your followers and your network. So two things we're looking to do here. One is to build up relationships, particularly with influencers. If you can get someone in your industry who has a big following of the types of people your business wants to reach, if you can get them to start regularly resharing some of your posts, all of a sudden you're no longer reaching your 100 followers, you're actually reaching their tens of thousands of followers with your brand and your messages. So that's the first reason it's really worthwhile engaging. The second reason it's really worthwhile engaging is that's what drives people to take the step that you wanted them to take. So if you wanted people to book onto a webinar, or you wanted people to send in a CV for your team to review, whatever it may be, it's engaging with people that actually makes that happen most effectively. So those are just a few thoughts from my side to add to what Cameron said about what you need to focus on to be successful on social media and digital recruiting more generally. We'd love to field your questions now, so do use the question box to fire some questions through, and we're going to take a look through those and answer those live now. I had a couple of questions submitted in advance, so I'll kick off with those to give you all some time to enter your questions in that box. Cameron, one of the first ones I had that came in were, what are some ways that you found people can increase the level of interactions that they're getting on the social media posts that they're putting out there? Have you got any ideas of what you've seen works particularly well?
Yeah. I think in terms of increasing interaction on posts, I think something that works well with regard to that is there are a couple of things. One is to, similar to what you spoke about there, Tony, is to make sure that you're sharing them on the platforms where your target audience hang about in. And then secondly, perhaps introduce those posts to someone off of the back of a question. So I think social media itself is all about asking questions. We need to be social when we're on social media. So if you see a discussion that's taking place where perhaps you think an article or a blog, or it doesn't have to be your own content either, it could be something else that you've read that is of relevance, then get involved in that conversation, ask a question, reciprocate, share that piece of content. That's going to start to build your credibility as a thought leader in the industry when you get involved in more discussions. I think a lot of people get involved in social media, they post stuff out there and they expect to see a return and a increase in followers. If we're not getting involved in conversations on social media, then that becomes quite difficult. So I'd say, ask some questions around about these sort of things.
That's a great idea. And I would echo that. I mean, one of the most effective ways that you can get more engagement on your posts is actually to interact and engage with other people yourself. What you've got to remember is on a lot of social sites, it is unusual for you to get lots of comments and lots of likes and reshares of your post each day. So, the average user on LinkedIn might only see, a comment come through on one of their posts, once every week or two. They might only see one of their tweets being retweeted, every few days. So if you are the person, or yours is the business, that does comment on their posts or that does retweet them and reshare them, then that has a massive impact. People really notice when that happens. And what I'd say to you is if you go out and you do that for, let's say, 50 or 100 people out there in your industry, what you'll notice in the days and weeks that follow is that they start doing that to your posts in return. People really reciprocate on social media. So if you can do that, it has a really dramatic effect. Hello, Cameron.
Hi, Tony. Got you.
So I'm not sure what happened there. So sorry, everyone. Thank you for bearing with us. Yeah, I had a question come through there. There's loads of questions come through for us to get through, so we'll look to answer all these questions. Someone asked for clarification on what I had meant by engaging with people to get them to take the sort of desired course of action. So if I give you an example there, let's say that you are, I don't know, an accountancy recruitment business, and you want to encourage candidates in your sector to download your latest salary report and to therefore become subscribed to your database and get your emails and your company information on an ongoing basis. Maybe that's your end goal for social media. Well, at that point, you will be looking at conversations that are taking place on social media to do with accounting. So you'll be seeing who is sharing and commenting on content from Accountancy Age and the ICAW and whatever other accounting publications are out there. If you've got content on your own blog that's to do with accounting, you'll also be looking for people who have shared that on social media. And each and every time someone has shared one of those bits of information, that is an opportunity to jump in and have a conversation. So let's imagine that an accountant has shared a post about how fast accounting businesses have grown this year. You might jump in and thank them for sharing that. Really interesting data. Interested to know what trends are you seeing in the accounting market right now? Are there any particular practice areas you're seeing that are growing fast? And the person, because hardly anyone ever comments on any of their things, they immediately notice when you have done, and so that sparks off a conversation with them where you're now talking one-on-one with an accounting candidate who's exactly the type of person you would like to be dealing with in your business. And at a certain point, you then throw into the conversation, really enjoyed interacting with you today. Thought you might also be interested in taking a look at our salary report. If that would be helpful to you, here's the link. Something like that. And what you would do then is A/B test that. So as a business, you have messages that you put to people, and then you see which of those messages do you get the best response from. And very often, if you try two different versions of essentially the same message, or you try putting two different offers to people of what you'd like them to do, you'll find one of those two is a clear winner over the other one. And this is how you optimize your social media sales funnel, so that every interaction you have with a good candidate or a good client, you maximize the likelihood that results in them doing what you wanted them to do. So I hope that answers that question. So another question, Cameron, come in. Just started my business. I am social media savvy. What advice would you give to a startup how to tackle social media in a business sense? Is there any free software that can boost your social media presence? Any other advice you can give?
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of great tools in the market just now to aid you with your social media. Things like Buffer for scheduling your tweets or posts. Hootsuite as well is another really good product, free product for starting to schedule your content. And it just means that when you're starting up your business, you're going to have lots of things on the go, lots of different things to focus on. You're going to be getting pulled from pillar to post. It just means that that's going to allow you to set some time aside each day and schedule your content, and then not really have to worry so much about having that presence. So that's going to help get you visible. However, you still need to dedicate time for the engagement part, where you're actually going on and you're asking questions and you're engaging with people on there. But they're just a couple of good tools that will allow you to buy back some time, but you'll still need to dedicate time to do the engagement piece as well.
Thanks, Karen. I think my advice in that scenario, and for anyone actually that's in a small business, is to just be really laser focused about what you're trying to achieve as an outcome on social media. Social media can be a really big time suck, and if you're a new business and you think, oh, I've got to reach as many candidates as possible on social media, I've got to reach clients, I want to get people to start knowing about our website and having a look at that, with no focus, you're going to end up firstly spending a lot of time on social media trying to reach and interact with all those different audiences, and secondly, you're not going to have a very good conversion rate to people actually doing what it is that you really want them to do. Whereas if you say, let's say your startup needs to generate client leads as its top priority, maybe that's your situation, maybe it's candidate focused, but if you focus your efforts on that particular angle, then you can be really targeted in how you spend your time. And actually, there's probably a few hundred people out there who are the most obvious clients for your business. And so you really want to focus on finding where those people are active on social media, and making sure you interact and spark conversations with them there, rather than trying to do absolutely everything and doing none of it particularly well. So I hope that's helped with that one. Anything else you'd add, Cameron?
No, I completely agree with you there, Tony. I think sometimes it's important to identify, like, if you're going to start up with social media, in actual fact, sometimes you're better off actually, if you can't dedicate the time or to do it properly from the get-go, then sometimes it's maybe worth just parking it until you do have the time and the resource to actually do it properly. And like you say, it's important that you've got that end goal in mind, like achieve from the get-go, rather than just having a presence for the sake of having a presence type approach, because that doesn't necessarily add any value to the people that are going to be engaging with you and your brand.
Absolutely. Another question we've had is, I've started engaging with my audience on social media, getting great leads and interest, but what I struggle with is keeping track of all of that and then following up with people and managing that whole process. Any suggestions for how I can better manage my social media leads? Perhaps there's candidates I've interacted with who I can't place now, but I want to stay fresh in the mind with for the future. Any suggestions on that?
Yeah, a few. I mean, I think on the candidate side, if you come across a good candidate just now who you don't have any jobs on for them right for them again in the future, when you do get the right requirement, I think using a CRM or an ATS system that will allow you to store those candidates for the future, for example, if you get a requirement on that is a fit round about what that candidate is interested in, then having the capability to do some automatic marketing round about that for as soon as you get that requirement on, that type of tech is available nowadays. So you could have a requirement for a .NET developer in London looking for 70k a year. You might not have that job on right now, but there's technology out there that will allow you to create what's called an alert that will then go to that candidate as soon as you get a requirement on that's a fit for them moving forwards. So that's one way you could handle it on the candidate side. The other thing you could do as well, which is it's far simpler than that, is the touch points that you have with candidates and clients alike. So for example, on the client side, if you source 10 new businesses that you want to go in and start to engage with and interact with, you could identify your target audience inside those organizations and then just map out a certain number of touch points that you want to have with those individuals on something like Excel. It could be that you want to have 5 touch points with the 2 contacts at that particular business over a 2-week period. Say touch point, what I mean is an engagement. So you might go in and you might look at one of the LinkedIn Pulse articles that they posted, comment on it if it's a good article, then reshare it, and that gets you on their radar. A couple of days later you might go into their Twitter, see what they've been tweeting about, and then favourite and retweet something they've put in there. That gets you on their radar again. So you can start to track things like that just through something as simple as Excel.
Mm. Yeah, I'd echo that. There's a tool that I use that's called Nimble. That's nimble.com, and that's basically a sort of sales CRM system. But you can tag people who are particularly important to you, and then the system will alert you when there are opportunities for you to interact with them on social sites, and that can be a great way of being flagged if they've liked something of yours, or if there's something they've put out there that you could comment on, and it'll also remind you with the frequency that you request how often you're going to try and stay in touch with that person, and it'll prompt you if you haven't actually done that in the timescale. So that would be one that I would recommend.
I think
go on.
Quite often on the candidate side as well, Tony, like recruiters will have conversations with candidates about particular, what they're interested in. They might not have anything on for the here and now, but our own software will allow, for example, you to create an alert for that 6 months down the line or 2 years down the line. If you get a requirement on based around that actual conversation you've had with the candidate and their requirements, if you meet that, then you'll start to deliver marketing to them that's relevant around that particular job. So there's tools out there to help you with that sort of thing.
Mm. There's an interesting question here about how do I know which platforms I should actually be on. My particular focus is, in this case, general labourers, agriculture. How do I know which platforms they're on and therefore that I should be active on? I can certainly address that, but any thoughts from your side, Cameron?
I think the one thing, this is probably more one for you, Tony, but I think if you're tracking your historical data, then you can certainly be looking to perhaps see which source is giving you the biggest return of investment, and then start to focus your time around about that one.
Mm. Absolutely. What I would suggest you do is go on to each social site as a prospective advertiser. So set yourself up with an advertising account, start creating your first advertising campaign with them, and at a certain point you will be prompted to specify the audience that you actually want to reach, and then you'll be able to see all the different ways that you can cut the demographics of that particular social site to reach the people that you need to reach, and you will then be presented with, this is how many people we can reach for you with your advertising campaign. So if you take Facebook as an example, you could narrow down, okay, we want people within 25 miles of this location, and they have to have these criteria, they have to have these job titles, they have to be interested in these things, etc., etc., and you'll then see, okay, Facebook can reach this many of those people for you. And obviously, you will see big disparities across the sites between how many they are able to reach for you. So that would be the best source of data about which social sites to use. The other thing you can do is just search for groups and communities for that particular audience on any social site. So, if you see that there are tons of that type of people interacting in communities on Google+, then, maybe yours is a business where Google+ is really worth investing in. Whereas if you're struggling to find any communities where your type of target candidate or client is active in group discussion, then maybe that's not a platform where they're so strong. So those two in combination would give you a really good picture, I think. Anything else you'd add there, Cameron?
Nope, spot on, Tony. Really good.
Okay. Another one that's come in for companies that have yet to adopt social recruiting or invest in social media. How would you suggest presenting the need to do this internally in terms of adoption?
Do you want to take that, Tony? Or
I'm happy to, yeah. I think you need to start with the end goal in mind. So returning to my funnel, what is it that you are going to drive as an outcome for the business from being on social media, and therefore then work back how much time, how much budget do you need to be able to deliver that result, and then the business can decide if that is worthwhile or not. For example, on the packages we offer to clients, our top package is $899 a month, and we talk about that if a client is devoting or has asked us to focus on driving candidate traffic to particular pages on their site. We would talk about that being able to generate between 1,000 and 2,500 candidate clicks through to their site each month. So with that information, you can then go away to the business and you've got a very clear case of, does the business value having 2,500 candidates on our careers pages or on our CV registration page as being worth that amount of money or not. Similarly, if you're using it for client leads, the business will probably know how much does it cost us to win each new client we win in the business. And depending on what that number is, you can then make a very clear case for being able to generate new sales leads through social media cheaper than some of the other routes you're currently using. So that's how I would do it. If you need help with actually what numbers would make sense there, what is it realistic for you to achieve for a given spend or resource, you're very welcome to set up a call with Social Hire over the next week, and we can try and help you figure out what those numbers would be. Just scrolling through, Cameron, seeing if we've got any other questions come through. Should a recruitment team have separate social profiles to the main business? So I guess that's if you've got a corporate, where they have their social profiles for the business as a whole to, attract clients or make sales or appeal to investors. Should the recruitment team then have a different set of profiles? Any views on that?
Yeah, I think the majority of the people that we deal with are recruitment agencies, and I'm all for like individual recruiters or even individual members of in-house teams being social advocates for the brand, as I think that each individual person having their own profile and being an advocate, it gives a far more human, a far more social representation of what you're trying to achieve. And as we keep going back to, social media is all about engagement and all about being social. So when you have a team of recruiters, each having their own profiles and interacting and engaging with various different people, I think it's a good thing, and I'm all for that.
Yeah, certainly if you look at big companies, if you think of professional services companies, if I think of, a Deloitte or an EY or someone like that, their recruitment teams would have a completely distinct set of social profiles compared with the rest of the business. And that makes total sense, because if you're trying to appeal to candidates, they're likely to be drawn to profiles that are sharing totally different content and have a totally different message than a set of profiles that are there to, appeal to potential customers or to keep investors informed or whatever it may be. So you need a set of social profiles to appeal to each distinct audience that your business wants to appeal to. I think one more I see there, Cameron, that's from earlier. How CCPTE, so getting the right content to the right customers or stakeholders on the right platform at the right time in the most efficient way. This is one of my biggest challenges. We're global, so presumably need to share across time zones and so on. What have you found to be most useful to achieve this CCPTE? You've mentioned Hootsuite and Buffer already, Cameron, so I'm guessing that would be...
Yeah, you can schedule your content there as well. I also think as well, picking up as many email subscribes as possible off of the back, distribute your content via email as well as a great tool over and above just your profiles. We certainly at Firefish, we share all our content out across social profiles, but we also have a subscription, subscriber list into our blog as well. So it doesn't really matter if you're in the States or if you're in the UK. Our blog goes out at the same times weekly, and then we have some intelligence in the background that's starting to track the engagement and the open rates and things like that. And then off of the back of that, if people start to engage with a particular type of content, we can then look to nurture them further. Slightly off piece in terms of social media, but from a marketing perspective, that works very well if you're collecting subscribers as well.
That's a great suggestion. And I mean, I would make a couple of observations there. We're fortunate in the recruitment industry that we're not we're not manning customer service accounts. So if you are a business on social media and you're responding to people who've just complained about, their airplane having been delayed or their hotel reservation having gone missing or something like that, there you need to be reacting to people almost instantaneously. But I would say in the recruitment industry, if someone has interacted with you in some shape or form on social media, so long as you've got back to them, within the next day, then you're probably not going to lose the momentum that was building from having had that interaction. So we focus, Social Hire, we're a global business. We're interested in clients in Australia or all over the world. But, our team is here in the UK, across Europe, and then a little bit in the States. We'll schedule content to go out, 24 hours to reach all the different markets that we want to reach. And we personally use Buffer to do that. Hootsuite is also good, as you've mentioned. But then, you only need to then log into each of those accounts and make sure that, if someone has replied to you overnight, that you're getting back to them the next morning, so that the next time they log into that Twitter account or that Facebook account or whatever it may be, your interaction with them is there and waiting. So I wouldn't get too bogged down on being able to reply to things absolutely instantaneously. In my experience, you don't lose the business opportunity if there's a little bit of a delay between them interacting with you and then you getting back to them. So I've had loads of comments coming through as well about, thanks for all these answers, that it's been really helpful. So thank you everyone for that feedback. I think, Cameron, that's got us to the end of our questions. So just remains for me to say, Cameron, thanks ever so much for taking time out of your day to be here with us today and to provide your insights. Those of you on the call that haven't had a look at Firefish, certainly recommend you go off and check out their site. And if you've got any follow-on questions, do feel free. You've got our Twitter handles there. Feel free to get in touch with us via Twitter as well. We're happy to help further. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks very much for having me, and thanks very much, everyone, for subscribing in. Really appreciate it.
Wonderful. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye-bye.